Hey everybody, hi, this is Goward Horton and my mother Carolyn. We've been covering the
Hi.
we've been covering the Jackson versus AEG trial, trying to keep you guys abreast of everything going on inside of the courtroom. So briefly, today is May 22nd, and we were in the trial today. It was really heated today. It was a lot of truth came out, and it was really rewarding to see how the prosecution really brought it to AEG. It was really rewarding. I like to say that he basically the prosecution attorney basically pimp slapped one of the witnesses from AEG with truth, not physically, but with truth. And I was just happy to see that. But I'm just going to talk a little bit about what's happened over the last few weeks. Some of the things we didn't talk about since the first episode. These are not exactly the order that it went in, but we're just going to talk about a couple of the witnesses that testified. Travis Payne was one of the high-profile witnesses that testified. Then there was also Karen Faye. Now, Karen Faye was Michael's hairdresser and makeup artist, and Travis Payne was, one of the choreographers, and he became the main choreographer for This Is It. He worked with Michael Jackson for many years, kind of assisting in choreography, even back in the Dangerous era, and he spoke about, Michael's well-being, how healthy he was, and so on. I'll get into that. And the other person who testified was a woman that used to work for Michael that helped with the catering. She also used to be a choreographer, and she spoke about how she felt she was very good friends with Tommy Ortega. And so she had a lot to say about Michael's health, his well-being. And also there was a doctor who testified. Talked about, it was actually a coroner who testified about, Michael's remains after he passed. So we're just going to give you in a nutshell basically what everybody talked about, the most important highlights, I would say, of what they talked about. Starting with a woman who was friends with Tommy Ortega. She had a very touching, very, very touching witness. What she said was just heart-jerking. She basically testified that Michael was coming to rehearsal wearing several layers of clothing. This was in a hot building with hot lights when they were supposed to be performing, and he came with several layers of clothing showing that he was definitely cold. That in an unnormal level of coldness. He was. She talked about how skinny he appeared. She talked about that he came with holes in his shoes at one point, which is totally uncharacteristic of Michael, and showed that people were not, paying attention to him, wasn't taking care of him, and he wasn't in his normal, sorts, because he would never come out like that. And plus dancing and everything, he had holes in his shoes. It just showed that he was something was going on physically. And she said that there was a couple times that he came, and one time they were rehearsing. It seemed like he fainted on stage, and she saw that there were a couple times that he talked to her and he wasn't talking as himself. Like he was a little like himself. He was drained. He wasn't talking like himself. He was drained. He appeared, discombobulated. And we know he was being medicated. We know that it wasn't, there was propofol at the end, but we believe that he was being poisoned, throughout this whole time. Because why was he just all of a sudden becoming so skinny, becoming so discombobulated when he's usually very healthy, very, to himself, very, cognizant, very well spoken. Michael Jackson is a lyricist who wrote a lot of his music. He had a very good understanding of putting words together and focus, and And to dance like that, you have to be very, very coherent. And for him to be like this was totally uncharacteristic of himself. And also, knowing Michael's nutritionist as we do, she mentioned that Michael had felt hot and cold on different sides of his body.
That wasn't in this court.
That wasn't in this court case. I'm just going back to a review that she said that he was hot and cold on different sides of his body. And that was while he was awake. And so that was after being cared for by Conrad Murray. So something funny was going on with what Conrad Murray was giving him that was harming him, that was wearing down his health. That's just the crust of what we want you guys to know. So when we get to AEG, though, there's bigger parties involved in this. When you see what happened next, because the woman says that she began to email Tommy Ortega. She began to try to get some attention. She tried to do some things but she really felt Michael was dying. And she just felt in her spirit like he was dying. And she tried to tell Tommy Ortega that he needed a better, doctor. He needed better medical attention. And Tommy Ortega went and emailed Mr. Phillips. He emailed the other leaders of the company with no response. No response until much later. They didn't respond. They did not do a thing. And again, that's very suspicious. That shows you that that's uncaring. I mean, there's obviously, some dirt there. There's obviously some kind of malice there if they wouldn't even respond when he's writing him and he actually says he feels like psychologically even that he needs evaluation because of the stress he's under. And he needed nutritional help. He also added that he needed, and he said, point out, he needs a better doctor. He needs a different doctor than what he has. And the reason why he said that he seemed like he's psychologically, not because Michael, something wrong with him, but Michael had concerns that he expressed to a lot of people that he was being watched. This was not because Michael was crazy, it's because Michael was being watched. And we'll get into that next, because even that house that Michael had was being paid for by AEG. So Michael had very good reasons to feel paranoid. There's a lot of cameras in the house that was being paid for by AEG. He was being watched. Plain and simple. But, Michael expressed to family members in another trial that he felt like he was dancing to death, like he was being pushed. And Michael loved doing it. He wanted to do the show, but he just felt, like there was some negativity there. And I believe God shows you the truth, But anyway, so let's moving on to. But my whole point with her was she then said that before he passed, Tommy Ortega and this young lady were in the room with him after he rehearsed, and this is when Tommy Ortega was rubbing his feet, and they were putting these clothing over him because he seemed so cold.
He was at the Staples Center.
He was at the Staples Center, and Tommy Ortega said that he looked so disheveled, he looked so cold, and he began to tell the woman, that he had been talking to God. Not like talking to God, like Michael said that he had been talking to God, and the way he said it, she knew that he was talking about death. That she knew that he was talking about leaving us, and she was just crying. She said, and he was just not talking like he normally would talk, and she just knew. And so she tried again to email and do things to no avail. So there's just a complete prejudice here. These people they showed extreme prejudice with this. They did not show any kindness towards Michael Jackson at this time in his life. And that just lets us know or believe that they're in on it. So then we go to Karen Faye's testimony.
Somebody from AEG.
Yeah, someone from AEG. We can't say everybody in AEG, the security guards, everybody were in on it. But we're just saying that there's some people in leadership, definitely, that were in on it. And at this point, I thought it was just about, I've always said Tommy Mottola and others who were involved in it. Definitely, I think John Branca might have had something to do with it, with the money he's getting from the estate. But AEG, definitely, after seeing how they ignored those emails, how they ignored all of this, even by just indifference, that shows how callous they were towards his protection, and that was their job to protect him. And I believe it was on purpose, though, not just indifferent. I believe it was malice intended against Michael Jackson to murder him, and we'll get into why that is. Next, Karen Faye basically said that she talked about how she traveled the world with Michael, how it was so wonderful, how Michael let her child be on tour with him when he went to do the Heal the World song, lifted up her child, and how they had kind of a relationship, friendship, but they were very close. And she just talked about it wasn't romantic, but just how close they were as friends. And she just really, she loved working with him, and she always loved helping him. And she was like, became like family, So one time they were on tour, and Michael came in the room. It seemed like he was tired because he'd been working so hard. He did a lot of work, and he kind of stumbled in the room, and he had another doctor then. I believe it was Mr. Tomei. I believe that was his doctor. And
Tomei was his manager.
Yeah, but the other doctor who was his doctor at the time, we'll have to get back to you on the name of that doctor. Sorry, but the other doctor was his name at the time. He basically was trying to control Michael because she came in the room and she told him that he looked like he was tired and he couldn't perform. She said he cannot perform tonight because Michael had to be shot out of this toaster. And the toaster is the little machine that the person is inside of. And he was inside of the toaster. And he was supposed to be shot out, but he had to, really pull his arms in really, really tight, as close as possible, to be shot out of this toaster. Anybody who was in it had to, really, contort themselves in a way just to get out of it. And she knew that if he wasn't ready, it could rip his arm off. If he gets shot out and his arm isn't ready, it could just really pull his arm off. So she said he cannot perform tonight. He's just not ready. He's not coherent, because he's tired.
Dr. Paul Gondaware, I think.
We believe the doctor was Gondaware, but I'm not perfectly sure about that. But Karen Faye said that this doctor, after she said no, he's not going on, told her yes, he is going on, and got very indignant. And then he actually grabbed her on the throat, slammed her into the wall, and choked her physically for a few minutes until she almost couldn't breathe. This is the type of doctor he has around him. This person. This is way back. This is years ago. So you see, even then there was some kind of control going on behind the scenes. Even then, when we're seeing Michael dance and perform, and he's happy, he's doing the best he can. But there were some people, there's some players there. We're starting to see that this is a bigger picture from what she told us. And
this was before he admitted that he had a problem because he was in a lot of pain, and they were supposed to, and I'll get into why he was in so much pain, but they were supposed to be giving him some dosages that he could get. They were supposed to be giving him dosages so that he could go on stage and perform, and at the same time he would not be in so much pain, because this is after the stage had flown up in the air that he was on and came down, crashed down, and it bruised his spine. And this was also after he had surgery, after he had the fire on his head. He had the surgery, and in order to try to, so that they could put, hair, because his hair wouldn't grow anymore. So they put a plate inside of his scalp so that they, I